possible for both sides, because I imagine there's also writers in the audience and people with a writing background in the audience as well. So I'm gonna kick off the panel discussion, asking Remy a question because you're the closest one.
Fair deal.
And you know, here in these PR meetups, as we call them, we always talk about how to pitch a story, how to, you know, how to get featured in the press. That's kind of like the number one concern of everyone who's here, and the number one struggle as well, because we have either clients, if you're an PR agency, you know, asking you for coverage, or if you're working in-house, you know, you promise your CEO, boss, whatsoever, that you're gonna get featured in the press. But you, from the other side of the story, what are the big no's when it comes to pitch story? What are the things that you never pick as, you know, in a newsroom?
Well, just to give some context, Sprout is a platform that targets startups, scale-ups, and investors. So the whole ecosystem around startups and scale-ups, basically. So every story that's being pitched to us, and it's a lot every single day, has to have a lesson for one of these groups. So it's either, and there's a small problem, because if you're starting a company, then you want to get featured in the press, because that's what people to know about you. If you're starting out, it's quite difficult because you don't have any traction, you don't have maybe any failures or any successes, so it's very hard to have a lesson for other people. So the main thing we look for is there something in the story that other people in these very specific niches, you said, these niches, they can learn from. Yeah. That's the most important thing we look for.
Yeah. So that means, for example, not a new feature.
Not new feature, not new corporate. It's like have or someone who comes on your team, you join your team. So sometimes we get a press release saying, well, we've got, say, you're going from blah blah blah. He joined our team. Can you write about it? No, because why should any other entrepreneur care? Yeah, and that's an important thing to keep in mind.
But Remy, does that apply to fintech companies as well?
Definitely, yeah. Because fintech is a very hot sector technology. But if there's like nothing new going on and nothing to share, why should we invest like 2 hours of our time in writing a piece about it?
Unless it's a strategic hire, right? Like a director or...
Yeah, exactly.
And that leads me to actually the next question for you as well. When you actually don't have, let's say, big things happening in your company, right? Like, for example, you launch like a brand new business line, or for example, I don't know, you got funding.
Yeah.
Because it happens to many of us that there are not many things going on either in our clients or what we're working on. So how do you actually get, you know, stories in the press, even though there's no news going on in your company? Or what are the things that you can actually, you know, pitch?
Well, I think that's maybe the most exciting thing that you can do as a PR agent or someone working in PR, because you have to like become a journalist and find out things that are going on in the company that are relevant, that are happening. And of course, you can start a onderzoek. Help my viewers. Research. Thank you. Research. You can do research on the subject and send it out, or but just talk to people, see what's going on, see if they have maybe something to share, something that went wrong. People always like to learn from things that didn't go so well, so they can learn from those things. And for example, a company a while back, somewhere earlier this year, they decided that they weren't going to give out any days you can take off, like 3 days. Anymore. You can, if you're an employee there, you can just go whenever you want.
Like unlimited
vacation. That's it. And there are things that are funny, that are smart, that are interesting for the media. Yeah. Because it makes you think. Because as entrepreneurs.
What I think you should also do when you're in a company, you don't get anything. You have to go out into the company, talk to people.
Yeah, definitely.
We had a client once, and they came to us and they said, we have this really thing. They were making pin machines, transactions everywhere, and said we have a new version of the thing. I was like, oh fuck, what am I going to talk about now? And I walked with him through the warehouse, and they were working on some vending machines. And I said, what are those guys doing over there? Oh, it's just a small job. We have to rebuild about 50 machines for Coca-Cola. We have to take out the juices, and we have to put in vegetables for schools.
Oh,
And so I said, doing what? Well, vegetables for schools. Schools don't want to have sweet juices anymore in the vending machines. I said, well, I think that is a nice story. He got half the page in the national newspaper. And for him, it was just a small thing he wouldn't even care to talk about. So sometimes you just have to go into the company yourself and talk to people and tell them, what are you working on? What are you working on? And let, because you are supposed to be the one who has to see the news. It's not their job. So sometimes you have to ask
yeah,
around.
look very carefully. Become a research journalist within the company.
Right.
Basically.
And you also, because Jeroen also worked in a PR agency. He had his own PR agency actually, with many interesting clients. And you told me this story about Disney, right? When they invite you to this new...
Well, sometimes they come up with stuff you have that are actually not interesting. You also shouldn't cover it. It was what I call is when the people who work in the company, they just have painted the windows black, they shut the doors, and they turn off the phone, and they're all working on one thing. And we had an international PR meeting. Everybody in Europe had to come over to PR meetings, and we got bussed off to the entrance of the park. And we usually take the back entrance, so that was for us a novelty. And the guy, the VP, he jumped out. He said, "Well," and everybody was like, "Yes." And we said, "Okay, do we have new entrances? Do we have new toll booth? Is it wider?" And we just couldn't figure out what the fuck it was. But it turns out the park changed name for the third time. It was Euro Disney, Disneyland Paris, and he had put the new name on top of the entrance booth. And that had been his product for 3 months. And that was his news. And we couldn't do anything with it. So it was really difficult to tell him. But sometimes it's better to just tell people inside the company, I should not go out with this news because he's going to laugh at me. And the next time I'll call, he's not even going to pick up the phone.
I'm going to laugh at you too.
You're more polite. He really is.
Yeah.
That's actually good because Flip also, I mean, he's a freelance reporter. And for me, at least when I started working in PR, I kind of like didn't know what's the difference between being a freelance, like a freelancer, a writer, that when you're actually working in a newsroom, for example, at Sprout. So, Flip, maybe you can tell us the challenges of being a freelancer, how people actually should, like what are the tips that you can give people to approach you, for example?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you, I've been working for newspapers. I was a staff writer for newspapers for a couple of years and for magazines as well. And then I wanted to do something more fun, let's say. So now I'm a freelancer. And the challenge for freelancers is to, well, I build up quite a large network of people in certain types of business, mostly tech. So I try to contact those people and get stories from them. And they know they can reach me for their stories. So that's one big part. Try to get into the network of the freelancer from whom you know that he is one of the specialists on the topic.
Yeah, and that's something that you were pointing out when we discussed previously, because there are freelancers that are specialized in particular topics that maybe they are not in a newsroom, right? Like for example, someone that is specialized in fintech. It's quite like a niche industry that maybe you guys at Sprout don't have, right? So those are the things that we were discussing as well, right? Like these people are might be even more relevant for your story than someone working in a specific publication.
Yeah, well, what I'm actually a little bit surprised of is next year, at the start of next year, and Remy probably knows it too, there will be coming up a directive from the European Union called PSD2.
Yeah.
And it's about how fintech companies, to make it short, will be able to utilize bank accounts of everyone, you and me. And it's still not yet finalized. The Dutch government still has to make some law about it. It's only 3 months away. All the fintech companies like to step in, to make a buck, to get to the accounts of all the people. So that's a huge story, and I'm really surprised no one stepped in yet to make that story.
Tomorrow.
Randy, I have a question actually. Talking about freelancers, we have a database. That's my company. What we do is we have a database with about 9,000 journalists in the Netherlands, and we know what they're doing, what they're writing about, and how to reach them. And we get more and more freelancers because they get fired and they have to work as freelancers these days. But sometimes, I'm wondering, editorial people, if you get a press release, will you look at it differently than when a freelancer comes at you with the same subject?
I think so, yeah, because you're maybe a bit more off your guard than when a PR firm sends you something that's clearly with a goal.
Clearly commercial.
Yeah, clearly commercial. And when it's come from a freelance journalist, it might be, well, I've heard this very cool story about this company, they're doing this and this. I think you're more likely to listen.
Yeah, that's what I say to some clients. I say, if we send it directly to the editors, and they don't do anything with it, try and find a freelancer who works for the same publication. Send it to the freelancer, and maybe he or she will get a foot in the door to get the story at least pitched.
Yeah.
At least get your attention while you're sitting there. Next.
I'm afraid this has happened to me.
Take the story.
Sometimes it was a good story. yeah.
And that leads me actually to the next point, and it's the fact that you're busy, and everyone knows that.
Yeah.
You're editor-in-chief at Sprout. So when you every day, what would you advise to them in terms of writing the press release? What are the things that attract your attention right away, and things that they should get rid of? Like things that are like, oh no, man, this doesn't work. Stop doing it.
Well, I liked the presentation we got earlier, because it's true. Like the mass media just sending a press release to a few hundred, few thousand, 9,000 journalists in your database, it isn't going to do it. I think that the best job is to start thinking about, all right, what kind of media is this? What is their target audience, and why is this story relevant for the audience? If you can pitch that idea in like a few lines, then I think that's key. It's not like a success formula. Something's going to be published, but you're really helping the editorial team. I think we get about 200, 300, 400 press releases each day, so it's a lot, and mostly it's just delete. And if you're proactive in thinking why the story would be relevant for the readers, you'll be helping us a lot.
Do you think that if somebody framed it as an op-ed, you had a leader coming with the same story but actually revealing some lessons, that you'd be more likely to publish it?
What's for part of the
And
question?
if
Sorry?
an editorial or a
Oh
blog?
yeah, that's one of the things we talked about earlier. It can be, but almost every time I would like it a lot. If more entrepreneurs wrote opinion pieces on things that are going on in the world. It can be something within companies, but it can also be like
They should do it much more often.
yeah, how can we get rid of Donald Trump, for example? The problem is that it always ends up being like an advertisement for their own company. There's always, after 3 or 4 alineas or paragraphs, it's always well, we at PRLab are doing this and this. It's very important because blah blah blah. And then it's just a sort of editorial and
Promotional
no
piece,
one
yeah.
no one wants to read it. So if you write, or if you get someone to write an op-ed, then please just make it about the topic and not about something within that company, because even if it's relevant, people are going to think it's an advertisement, basically.
I have a question. I'm new to PR and in marketing, doing other stuff. I just wonder if you get so many, like a couple hundred press releases sent to you a day, what is the type of subject line that catches your eye?
Naked woman. Free beer. It always helps. Well, big funding rounds, of course, are always very interesting, and the amount varies, because it used to be like 10 grand or 20 grand would be very interesting. Now we don't really. Deals of a few $1 million are more interesting these days, and other things are, if you can tell the story in like one line, that would be very good.
You gave an example. You showed us an example today from a man who wrote an email today to you.
Yeah, it was terrific, because it's a fun example. Many people would like to drink coffee with you, and I can only drink so much coffee a day. So like 99.9% of the time, I just ignore those emails. And someone referred to me, Remy, you really should drink coffee with this guy. He does the PR for our firm now. I thought, oh God, not again. But then the guy proactively sent me an email saying, Remy, I know you're very busy, so I think that we can skip the coffee. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you very specific press releases, only if I think they'll be very, very relevant for your audience. I'll be a very good gatekeeper, he said. And I told you earlier, if I was gay, I would marry this guy. Yeah, terrific. If you're that proactive in thinking with journalists, who of course don't have that much time a day to work on your specific client, yeah, that's just terrific.
So he succeeds.
The field. And when we met, like I think it was 3 weeks ago, a month ago, we were talking about the things that still work in PR that maybe people think they don't work anymore, but still work. Like for example, you were mentioning press tours, right? People stop doing them and they're working again. What are the things that you think still work, even though we're in 2017 and things change and we have growth hacking and all these weird concepts?
Well, we were talking just now about the crisis, and that press tours just crashed because no one wanted to spend any money. Well, now all kinds of new developments are occurring. I mean, we're right in the middle of a new age, right, of digital transformation, or whatever you want to call it. And there are some exciting things happening, and offices are opening. That would be a good reason for a tour, a press tour. Show the office around. What do we have here? What are we doing? Are we working with virtual reality or what? That would be one. One particular press release that I liked was from PRLab a couple of years ago, when I was still working on the staff of one of the business magazines. PRLab is a startup here in Amsterdam, or at least it was, and they are selling from those plants in glass jars, right? And they were coming to the office.
You don't have to water them for a year. That's their like their pitch. You have a plant in the office, and you don't have to give them.
You don't have to get them water, right?
Yeah.
You got one too?
I've got two.
And they came to present it at the office, and it was directed to me. And everyone in the office was like, "What's that?
Yeah.
Why did they send it to you? Why didn't they send it to me?" And all the women, excuse me, ladies, but they were mostly interested. That works.
So gifts for journalists.
Well, in
Only very expensive ones.
Fancy gifts. The hipster ones.
the plant ended up the desk of one of the lady reporters. So
It worked. We wrote a piece about it. Yeah. Sellouts.
What
Sellouts.
about the personalized invitations? The ones that you get not by email but by mail? If you get a card, for example, inviting you to an event
Mhm.
with your name printed, like a printed.
It helps, yeah, definitely. Because everything that's digital, yeah, it's sort of like it's gone in a second. You don't think about it anymore. But like a card, you put it on your desk or something like that. That's part of the reason we still do print, because it's such a very expensive hobby to pursue. But it's so fun because people touch it, people leave it somewhere. You really enhance the world around us, where digital just you type something and well, it's gone in a second. So physical stuff, yeah, it does help.
And nobody does it anymore.
No, exactly. There's a huge gap. I think people will start doing it again. So yeah, like leap in that in the gap.
I see with the fashion writers, they still get a lot of physical invitations for fashion shows, and they post them on their Facebook pages.
Really?
Or yeah, Mishuba Zhu from Financial Dagblad, or on the Instagram. Look at the invitation out here. Look how nice it looks. The envelope, the thing, the handwriting. There's a guy in Paris. His company. The only thing they do is they have different types of handwriting and styles, and they only write invitations for fashion shows.
Yeah.
Makes a killing.
I got a big box from a PR agency, het PR bureau in the Netherlands. Someone from there? By any chance? No. Doing pretty well. And it was like with a liquor in it. And if you open the box, a video started playing in like this way. We still talk about it. We didn't write anything about it. And drank the liquor. It was a very fun night. But yeah, it keeps you on edge.
No, basically, so I'm also a travel and blogger, and I've been into technology blogging as well. So review units help for journalists, because if they don't know your brand, if you're a PR and you're trying to sell a brand for a piece, then of course if there's a review unit, you can take it back if you want to. If you don't want to give it as a gift, we don't want gifts over here. But we want to personally understand your product and then move forward for a story. If you like it, we'll do a story for you. So yeah, review units, I would call it, not gifts, are important.
Yeah.
That's cool. And Jeroen, you were telling us, because as I mentioned, he's been in both worlds. He's now launching an app that is actually very interesting, and I think it's gonna be trending. It's actually trending because you already heard about it. It's for media professionals. It's like a Tinder for stories. You know, now there's Tinder for everything.
It's Pinterest.
Yeah, it's Pinterest. But basically,
Is it Barbara Galitza?
But basically now, journalists who have a Tinder, where they can swipe left or right based on the story, right? So you.
Yeah, we started this because of people like you who say we get 200-300 press releases a day. And we had an event for our clients, for PR agencies, and we had some reporters talking there about their work. And they were complaining about the incredible amount of press releases they got. We've done a research recently. The University of Amsterdam has done that for us amongst PR people and journalists about the way they communicate. And one of the things is to talk about the consequences, because the PR people, and one research showed you have 150,000 people working in PR and 15,000 in the press. So it's a very unequal fight. And the PR people got crazy, they didn't get permission. The reporters got crazy because they got swamped with permission requests. And what happens now is they said, okay, if you mail someone about the subject that he or she is writing about, you can do it without permission. And if you keep that in mind, you will send less press releases, but more efficiently.
How's it going to work out for GDPR?
We don't have a problem with that because we consistently, 3-4 times a year, ask all the reporters permission to use their data. We ask their details, and if somebody says, I want to get out of the database, he or she gets removed immediately. We have clients, however, who don't want to be responsible for leaking journalist data, so we're going to make, we have already made, we're now going to announce that we put it in place, the opportunity for them that they cannot download, that they have double identity check before they can log in, and that they can only use our mailing system, so they will be free of the problem that they're going to be accused of data leaks, because it's 4% of their annual worldwide turnover that they can be fined, so it's a shitload of money. Yeah.
There was another question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, from the data, Jeroen, that you have now with your dashboard, and you can sort of see the data of all these press releases getting sent via your system. Can you give us some insights in the types of headlines that you think work well because they've been opened the most, for instance, or they've been, well, published in the end?
No, there's not one headline, I think, that you can say if you use
This
that
works,
one.
no.
Well, you two can talk more about that. Because you get a lot of it.
Well, it depends, you know. I mean, it's what's hot at the moment. I mean, we're now talking about, I mean, globally, right? And in the Netherlands as well. We're talking about climate change. We're talking about what's happening with Europe. These are topics which might be from interest for magazines as well as newspapers, as well as radio or television. I mean, those are the topics that make the headlines these days. So if you have a client who is coming with a product or a service that may be of help in some kind of way, that's the way to. That's the moment to come up with your press release or whatever you think is appropriate.
I think in the end, PR people, you guys, need to stop being, in the Netherlands we have a concept that is called a doorgeefluik. How can we like translate this into fair English?
Funnel.
A funnel, like a company gives you something and you package it and then give it to the journalists. Here you go.
You're not a parcel company.
Yeah. You have to. You're not part of, you have to stop being the doorgeefluik, and you have to become great storytellers. I think you have to go out and find great stories, and they're all. I'm not a great storyteller myself, as you have probably noticed, but there are all these rules that are out there. What makes a great story? Make it human, make it tangible, all kinds of these stuff, and try to go out and find these stories within these companies. That you can basically sell to journalists. Try to find stories that you would tell to your friends in the bar if you go out on a Friday night and find stories.
Really?
I have a client and he told me this. If the story is good enough for your friends, it's probably good enough for journalists out there.
And you mentioned, because they get a lot of stories pitched from PR agencies or in-house PR on founders and on startups, because you guys cover a lot of startups and a lot of like entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
What are the stories from founders that you actually pick up, or the things that, or like from startups in general, that you are like, okay, this I would definitely pick up?
Well, I heard from a great entrepreneur called Patrick de Leve from the Next Web. From your firm. I listened to his podcast yesterday, and he said that no one cares about startup news. So I was a bit surprised to hear that, but he had a point somewhere. So your question again, I thought it was a very good anecdote. What's your question? I remember, I should tell this story. It was very cool. I actually laughed very hard. So
Yeah, what are the things that are actually you would actually pick from stories from like the founders or startups and things that you don't really care about? From
stories from
entrepreneurs.
startups, yeah. The thing is, Patrick said, the startup stories are hard because it takes a lot of time. They aren't getting read that much because no one knows the company, so no one clicks on the title because they hey, wow, it's not Uber. If Uber is in the headline, everyone clicks on it. So the stories don't get that many views. It takes longer to write because people don't know the story. So journalists have to.
Fast way to get your news out there. And if you have 6 publications that you want to be in, then yes, have a press release and send it to every other guy who might look at it. But if you have 6 publications and craft something for each one of those 6 publications in a personal way that is meaningful to them, and not just send them here's some stuff I prepared earlier.
I mean, isn't the whole premise of this conversation that PR is only one tool to communicate, and so sometimes, I've also been an in-house PR consultant, and sometimes the best response is, as you said, don't do PR at all, but then there's content and storytelling and community engagement. So, is the press release dead? Is the op-ed kind of more relevant potentially? You're saying you're more receptive to journalists. Where are we with PR?
Well, it's funny that you say it because last year Google had a conference here in Amsterdam on journalism, and one of the people that was speaking there was someone from Associated Press, one of the press agencies in the world, and they are pushing opinionated articles from lots of people in businesses too. And they're counting it. They're keeping track of it.
Yeah, I just started a career as a ghostwriter because people don't have time to write their own op-eds.
Right.
But that's a much easier way to get your story out there.
I think so. We even have one of our entrepreneurs who wanted to make I think he was an entrepreneur for 20 years. He wanted to share his story with the world. And he even wrote the basic pieces of his thoughts. Then he hired a journalist to make a structured story and make it readable. And then he just gave it to us. Well, I don't have any commercial I don't have any commercial belang. Interest? Yeah, not commercial interest, it is. But I want to share it with the world via Sprout. And it works so great because journalists are bad writers, but people who aren't journalists are even worse writers. That's basically a fact. So hiring a ghostwriter is a terrific way to get your story out.
To answer your question, by the way, sorry, about is the press release dead? No, I don't think so. There are some
I didn't say it
stories.
was dead. I said it was lazy.
No, it's not even lazy, because you save both sides a lot of time. Because sometimes you just have a flint of information that's interesting for people. Other times, what I did was I would send press releases about some subjects to large groups of people. But I used to work for New Balance, was one of my clients, and we had really cool shoes. So all year round it was easy. I would send out press releases because the stylists would be happy. They got all the photos of the shoes, and they would call me whatever they wanted to have. And once a year I had to push walking shoes. Huge, ugly brown pieces of plastic on your feet. Then I would send a personal press release. I would say, Marilyn, I've been sending you great help this year. I've helped you out when you needed those red shoes, size 7. I have this ugly piece of shit that I have to push. Please help me. And I would get great response. Because they would laugh, they would have fun. They said, okay, well, this is a personal release for me. So at the same time, you can personalize them and put effort in it. And sometimes you're really doing people a service by sending a great one press release to a great amount of people.
Well, that's what I mean, but the press release is there as a matter of record, and it has to go on the website so that other people can go and see it and stuff. So it has it, but it's the dullest tool in the box.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
Would you consider
But
quitting
you have-
writing it?
Sorry?
Would you consider quitting writing it? Just stop writing press releases?
be unemployed. No, I'm
Yeah, that's a
no,
problem.
you can't, because it is a matter of record, and as people want to research you, they go to your news site and they look at what stuff that's happened in the past. So it has a role. But if you want to get the FT, then I'm not going to send the FT a press release. I'm going to give them a call and discuss it with them, or I'm going to send them an email.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say, as I forget her name, the lady that spoke earlier. Margaret. Yeah. I'm not going to send them a press release and then have a whole bunch of 20-year-olds call them and say, hey, did you get my press release? Because it doesn't work.
Has anyone tried like automated press releases, like using sort of marketing automation tools to hyper-personalize messages and then trying to get journalists to write about it because they think they're getting like a very cheery, cool message from someone saying, hey Remy, how's it Sprout? I saw you're doing this and this. Can you try that?
Oh, like the personalized email.
Yeah,
right?
I think because that's going on in marketing.
Yeah, the yes word, those kind of tools. Yeah.
And I do get a lot of emails from American companies, strangely. I don't know how they find me. And they have like all these every time it looks like they really did some research and they wrote it personally. And every time I think I don't think this is genuine. This is an automated system you're sending out to thousands of people, making it seem like you really did some research. So
it's a secret message spelling mistake.
yeah, exactly. A spelling mistake, something like that.